Welcome to rSlash AmITheButthole, where a racist gets put in his place. Am I the butthole for telling my husband that his culture is garbage and I won't compromise by incorporating it into our family life? My husband and I live in the Northeast USA where I'm from. My husband John moved here for work several years ago from the deep south of the US where he grew up, raised with Christian holidays but never attending church. Coincidentally, shortly before everything hit, John's parents and his childhood best friend Dan and his wife decided to move up here as well. This past weekend was the first that us three couples have gathered together since any of us moved here. We had a distance picnic at our house. John sat down 2 to 3 minutes after I did as he was settling our kid into his playpen in the yard with us. Dan and my father-in-law immediately started to jokingly rip on him for being whipped and doing my job of parenting our child while he was supposed to be allowed to just catch up with the two other men. I was trying to politely deflect when it turned to how mean I was for not fixing him a plate and serving him before serving myself. If I thought a certain dish would run out before he got to it, or if he had asked me to, I of course would have. Dan and my father-in-law continue to brag about how their families do it right, where they handle the outside chores while their wives handle the inside chores. I think it's important to note here that both currently live in rented condos that, by their nature, don't have outdoor chores. And both of their wives have always worked full-time, just like I do. The whole day was kind of wrecked by that start, and I was frustrated when John left with Dan and my father-in-law to go for a walk, and left me to do all the cleanup alone while also looking after our kid. I expected John to apologize when he returned hours later, but instead, he got mad at me for making him look bad in front of his friend and dad. He brought up how a traditional division of labor is a huge part of Southern culture, and how I was being disrespectful to his background by forcing Northern culture onto him and his family. He said he's been building up a lot of resentment the past few months that I make him do half the chores and childcare, since in his culture, women do the chores and hands-on childcare, and men do the fun parenting, the discipline, mow the grass, and bring in the cars for oil changes when needed. I was stunned, but honest, and told him that Southern culture is garbage. It's bigotry. I lived in John's home state for 8 years, and I saw how Southern hospitality is reserved only for those in your in-group. Deviate from the norm by being queer, non-Christian, a person of color, a liberal, a non-traditional woman, and they turn on you viciously. Does every single person act like that always? No, but it's the culture. John is livid and says that his culture is just as valid as that of other global regions, religions, and ethnic groups. So I'm the bigot by not compromising with him here, and incorporating aspects of his culture into our family life the way I would if his culture was Islamic or Asian or whatnot. Wait. So you have to respect his culture where women are basically servants, but he's not willing to respect your Northern culture where women are more equal? Nah, OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your husband gets 4 out of 5 buttholes for not viewing you as an equal, and your father-in-law and Dan each get 3 out of 5 buttholes for insulting you in your own home. Look, I think there's some merit in saying that all cultures are valid, but that doesn't mean that all aspects of all cultures are valid. Some cultures have super toxic elements, and it's totally reasonable to reject them. Am I the butthole for punishing my son after he said something racist? I'm a 39-year-old female, and about a week ago my family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my 16-year-old daughter was taking the cat upstairs to put her in the room because he always tries to eat the food. My 13-year-old son loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy," as I'm at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So later that night, I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt, as well as write a 1-page paper on Chinese culture and a 1-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then, the next day, I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he'd faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night, my husband and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I don't condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand that what he said was wrong and hurtful. So down in the comments, people are overwhelmingly saying not the butthole, and I'm going to read this comment from Della Evane. Not the butthole. Sounds like your husband could use the lesson too. Actually my mom pulled something similar to me when I was a kid. So back in middle school, I had this math assignment that I didn't really want to do, so I asked my buddy if I could just copy his homework and he agreed. But the teacher saw us and grabbed both of our homework and told my mom. And then that night, my mom made me write an apology letter to my teacher and my friend. So the fact that I still remember that incident means that it must have been a pretty effective form of punishment. From that day on, I learned that if you're gonna cheat, you have to be way more careful about it. Am I the butthole for telling my relatives how much I make and defending my salary? I'm a 23-year-old woman, and over the weekend, I went to dinner with some of my dad's relatives who I don't see very often. My dad has never gotten along with his brother, and I haven't either. He's rude, condescending, and we don't agree with him on a lot of things. Normally, I just try to ignore him. However, at dinner, my uncle asked me about my car I'd shown up in and my new job. I started my job a little over a year ago after graduating college, and I worked hard for it. I make a lot of money, and I'm proud of that. I'm a software engineer. I recently bought myself my dream car that I've always wanted. My uncle asked, "How much are they paying you anyway?" in a condescending tone. And I just point blank told him how much I make. I guess I was supposed to laugh and say something like, "Oh, enough," but I told him the number. He started going off on a rant about how no 23-year-old should make that much money and how stupid my company is for paying me that much. I got pissed and said, I deserve every penny I make. I work hard and most people can't do what I do. Well, I guess this really made my uncle angry, because after dinner, I received a text from my cousin saying I had been really rude at dinner and insulted my uncle's intelligence. My dad sided with me because he hates my uncle anyway, but my sister agreed with my cousin and said I shouldn't have said how much money I make, or talk to my uncle the way I did because it was impolite. Down in the comments, I'm going to agree with Naria Genesis. Not the butthole. He asked a question, you answered. He insulted you and you defended yourself. Don't dish it out if you can't take it is my motto. Yeah, OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes from me. And as for your uncle, that's one of the most boomer responses I've ever read. So I'm giving him 3 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for walking out of a gender reveal party? I'm a 33-year-old guy, and my 34-year-old wife and I are having our second child. We have a 5-year-old daughter. She's been grouchy her whole pregnancy, so her sister offered to plan her a gender reveal party. The plan was that all the food and decorations would be blue or pink, and in the end, we get one of those special sparklers that would light up in either blue or pink to reveal the gender. We went to the doctor and got her to write the result in a folded piece of paper that we passed over to our sister without looking. So flash forward to the day of the party, and the moment of truth comes, and the sparkler turns out to be pink for a girl. I don't know what came over me, but all I felt at that moment was bitter disappointment. To be honest, all I was hoping for baby number 2 is to be able to toss a ball around with him and coach Little League. Or watch him go on Boy Scout camping trips. I know my daughter is only 5, but I've already started to deal with the dramas of being a father of a girl, and the thought of having to double up now in the neuroticism was harrowing. I grew up in a house with 3 older boys and 1 younger sister, and I can't imagine myself being outnumbered. My wife grabbed my arm as people were approaching us to say their congratulations and said I needed to look happier. At that moment, I just snapped. I shook my head and walked out to my car. We came separately and drove to my sister's house. I start getting texts from my sister-in-law and my wife saying, way to reenact their dad leaving their mom when they were 10 and 12. I felt like that accusation was unfair and I just needed some time alone. I didn't ask to be flabbergasted, it just happened. And I don't think it's fair that they would have demanded I smile and nod for the next couple of hours. Am I the butthole? OP, I really feel for you. You said, to be honest, all I was hoping for baby number 2 is to be able to toss a ball around with him and coach Little League. Or watch him go on Boy Scout camping trips. It's a shame you won't be able to experience that because, as we all know, little girls are literally incapable of throwing or catching a ball. And unfortunately, in America, they don't let little girls play sports, so you won't be able to experience that joy either. Oh, no, wait, it's that other thing. You can do both these things with a little girl, you're just choosing not to because, let's be honest, you're sexist. I have a neighbor on my street and let me think, I think he's like maybe 3 or 4 houses down from me, and when I walk my dog, I often see him outside with his maybe like 7-year-old daughter and they're just playing catch together. He throws her a football, she catches it, then she throws it to him, and he catches it. And would you believe it? It's a little girl and not a little boy. Isn't that just crazy? Come on, OP, you need to pull your head out of your butt. I'm giving you 3 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for making fun of a woman for being in her 40s and single? This whole saga started because my husband took my last name. A couple of weeks ago, he got his workplace to change it, and his coworkers found out. About half of them think this is the funniest thing ever, and about half are deeply offended. Brenda is in the offended half and has made that clear. My husband and I are in a group chat with his coworkers where we organized carpooling during the pandemic. It's very helpful to us, so we can't leave the chat. Since he changed his name, my husband and I have been dealing with a lot of dumb jokes in the chat, which we've been mostly ignoring. Yesterday, Brenda, his coworker, and I got into a bit of a spat. I messaged the group asking if someone could take my husband home since I wouldn't be back from work until late and needed the car. One of his coworkers agreed, and I thought that was that. Brenda messages the group saying, "Maybe if you spent less time at work and more time being a wife, your husband wouldn't come into work with dirty shirts." I took this as a bad joke initially. My husband is a rural mail carrier, so his shirts look like shirts worn by someone in 90-degree heat on dusty roads. I do wash them, but there's only so much to be done. I said, I could make cleaning those shirts my full-time job and it wouldn't do much, lol. "You won't be married very long if you keep trying to be the man in the relationship. I'd be embarrassed as a wife if I did so little for my husband." Well, I work more hours and pay the bills, so I think he can OxyClean his own shirts if it's so important. "Maybe you should learn to take proper care of your husband or you'll find yourself divorced." I'll let you know when I need to take relationship advice from someone who's 42 and single. Now, apparently, Brenda is going around saying that I mocked her for being single in her 40s. I don't care if someone is single in their 40s, but I think it's absolute BS that she can call me a bad wife, but I can't point out that she has no frame of reference. Am I the butthole, Reddit? So yeah, OP, I've got to admit that engaging this woman in a fight in a group chat is slightly butthole-ish behavior. So I can't let you completely off the hook and I have to give you at least 1 out of 5 buttholes. That being said, you are honestly just defending yourself against Brenda who, let's be honest, had it coming. Brenda gets 2.5 out of 5 buttholes for sticking her nose in your business in a group chat. She sounds like a sexist busybody. That was rSlash AmITheButthole, and if you like this content, then check out my Patreon where I publish extra videos. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.